All right. Good night, everybody. Wow, that is a close-up view of your face, Zach. There we go. So as the title kind of says, Zach and I just got off of a whole weekend at the RoseHammer GT run by Ordo Fanaticus here in the area. They run a lot of events, but this was the first GT in Portland in like 4-ish years. It was before, it might be longer actually.
Well, I
But
mean,
oh,
I was going
go
to
ahead,
say it's
Zach.
been a long, long time before my time. I mean,
Exactly.
that's not really saying anything. Before your time.
Before my time, yeah. Um, but it was so successful and so many people signed up. We had one guy fly in from the United Kingdom. Um, and then we had 110 players, which officially made it a major,
Oh, yeah.
according to the ITC. So Zach and I went to a major, and we have a little bit of a recap, and we want to take your questions. And I'm not going to go into the vast detail that I did on my RRTTs, where I go like turn by turn. But I will give you my matchups, my scores, and my highlights, what I did right and what I did wrong, because that's how we learn in this game. As we all
Absolutely.
know, it is ridiculous. So actually, Zach, we aren't usually an orc channel, but why don't you give us a real brief overview of your list and then your matchups on day one, and then we'll kind of go
Oh,
back and forth on day one, maybe. I think.
yeah. I mean, obviously, as you've mentioned, I dropped at the end of day one because I'm old, out of shape, and my back hurt. But I got to stream in the back end, so that was fun. So my work list, I brought a pretty standard golf pressure list. So that is a bunch of beast snagga boys, so like 20 of those guys, 40 Gretchen just to do points. Uh, I had my chunky beast boss on Squigosaur. Rick actually convinced me to bring him. I was gonna drop him.
Dude is
Uh,
That dude is
and then I
ridiculous.
brought in my war boss and Mega Armor, and I fucked up here. So the first lesson: make sure you double check your list before submitting it at the last minute. I accidentally gave myself I spent a CP on something called Big Gob, which adds 3 inches to my +1 to hit aura on a war boss, and it was pointless. It did no good for me the entire time.
Because you were Ying or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could have gotten that +1 to hit if the war boss was with the mass of my troops. But usually, I use
Mm.
him to kind of hold the point or try to hold a point on his own because he's pretty tough and
Sure.
chalky.
Yeah.
I had a buttload of commandos that I was using for move blocking. I called them my sacrificial commandos, which is all they did the entire time. Worked really well for me one time. The other two times, not so much. But I guess they delayed some of my pain, but not all of it. Brought in a bunch of knobs, which are 2 damage boys. They used to be completely pointless before AOO. Now they are not so pointless because I get extra melee for free.
Yeah.
The big Choppa. On the shooty side or shootier side, I brought some Def Coptas and a Kill Rig and some Killicans with Scorches outside of my normal boys list. I think I ended up giving out 14 points for no prisoners and 13 points for bring it down if they wanted to do that. And of course, because I'm an orc list, 15 points for assassinate because I had
Hero Hammer. You're
the
playing
full
Hero
5
Hammer.
characters. I had 6 on the list at one point.
Really? Wow.
so,
It's a lot of characters, man. Calm down.
um, so I went in, started out first day. I was feeling pretty good after coming off a win the weekend before. Um, the game we shall not talk about.
Fuck you. He stomped
uh,
me real good with my Grey Knights. Like I had no
yeah,
idea what to do.
I think it's the first time I've ever played a meta list against you too.
Maybe that's what it was. I was like, oh,
I'm
this is
usually
how good orcs can be.
yeah,
It's not
right,
two
right.
stompas.
Yeah, it's not 3 stompas or 2, you know.
Yeah. Anyway.
So I went into Blood Angels. I was playing Kyle, let's see here. I have his
You,
name here.
you don't need his last name.
Kyle. I was playing
Yeah.
Kyle. Yeah, Blood Angel list. Also a big melee list. He got first. I got second turn. When I'm playing a melee against melee, I like getting second turn most of the time, unless it's a really fast melee. This came out to bite me in the ass later on.
Was it a bunch of
not in
death?
this matchup,
Was it a bunch of
but in the
Death
next two.
Company?
Huh?
Was it a bunch of Death Company?
I don't know what company they were. I just knew they were Blood Angels.
Right.
And I
So
like chopping them down.
did they have a bunch of Thunderhammer dudes with jetpacks and black armor that moved like
No.
27 inches? Okay.
No. So they came in, and I was able to just keep him pressured in his deployment zone, as orcs do at times. He came out, and I would stomp him, and then I would go further into his deployment zone. That game was over round 2. So end of round 2, it was pretty much over, but we played the whole game through.
Yeah.
And I tabled him. Ended up 99-41. So that was great.
That's right. I remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah. I was feeling awesome for about 15 minutes. I went out, had a cigarette, and then the pairings came up.
Yeah.
And I was paired against Tanner Herbert, who is a well-known player in the Portland area for being very good and playing whatever's new and doing excellent at them.
He only plays Chaos, but he's probably one of the top 3 Chaos players in this area, if not the top Chaos player in this area.
Yes,
it's very good.
I was pretty excited about that game though, because I've heard good things about him. I've watched him play a little bit before, but I haven't ever had any one-on-one interaction. That is the most fun game I have ever had in a tournament situation, by far. It was just great. I got smacked hard, semi-hard. So, thing about World Eaters, they are hugely fast. They are so fast, or at least Tanner's list was.
Yeah.
And Tanner's MVPs were not the 8-bound. It was not the super 8-bound. It was his fucking rhinos. He had 2 rhinos I could not take down that were just move blocking the shit out of me.
Nice.
So that game ended up I think it was 47-91. His favor.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, it was just yelling, "It's a blood tie!"
Yeah.
Over and over again. I mean, we were just yelling at the 2 of us at one point. But I mean, I thought the World Eaters were really bad and really fast.
Bad meaning badass? Bad meaning badass or bad?
Fast, really fast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fast.
They were super fast. They were able to get wherever they wanted, and they blocked the shit out of me with his rhinos. I had one big fuck up that game. I think I could have turned it around a little bit and lost by less.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I got my Storm Boys in his back line. He had left this little piece, like he messed up. I took advantage of it. I made the charge into his control point, his primary objective there. And I was ready to kick some ass. And I knew he could interrupt. And for some reason, I wanted to save that War Boss on his own and have him fight versus the Storm Boys. War Boss got the... I mean, they fought on death anyways against him.
For 2 CP,
I should have just fought with the Storm Boys, but instead I didn't. And so he turned around and just destroyed him. Whole unit gone like nothing.
My 6th game with my Grey Knights was against World Eaters, and I got to learn a harsh lesson there. But we'll get into that. They're melee profiles because it's all they do. They don't have any shooting. They don't have any psychic. Like they're like reverse Tau.
Yeah,
Tau only shoot. Corn only charges and fights. It's
absolutely. Yeah. It was ridiculous. So I thought they were fast. It was a super fun matchup. Like I said, best I ever had in a tournament. And so I was going into the third round. I was like, okay, well, let's see. I already knew I was screwed against Tanner the second I figured out I was going against him. The next game I had against Custodes Army, a biker Custodes Army, and then I learned what fast was. So the world eaters have that first turn where they're just up in your shit.
Mm.
Custodes are just always fast. This is the first time I've ever fought either of those armies.
Yeah, that's one of the cool. That's one of the really cool things about going to a tournament. Is in my 6 games, I played 4 different armies I'd never played before.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, no, 4. Yeah, 4.
Yeah. So I fought James Lee running Custodes, also a pretty good player, although not as well known as Tanner or some of those other people in the area. Yeah, that one, I didn't score on the good bits. I always score on the good bits. That works. I guess this isn't an orc thing. The good bits, if you've ever played against the orcs, that's their 15-point guaranteed secondary. I mean, it's just always guaranteed. You just have to go in, sit at an objective with Grotz that's outside of your deployment zone. You get 4 points at the end of your turn, up to 6 if you do it twice. Like nothing. Easy
per
points.
turn. Yeah.
Per turn.
Yeah.
Got nothing. He just kept me out. There were times I'd kick him off the objectives and he'd just come back before I could get it. And so that was rough. He was a good guy. We talked. He had an orc army. He already knew my tricks. And we talked about old metal orc miniatures and how cool they are. So after that, I was old, out of shape, like I said. Back was killing me. So I decided to take the next day to join Colby and do the streaming. So let's talk about your day one, Rick.
Yeah. No, man, that's I thought we'd go back and forth match.
Oh, sorry,
match to match.
I start going, I just go. You should have interrupted me. I know that's bad. But I'll interrupt you. You know I will.
That's true. I have a little bit of a presentation. I can go over to my web browser view here.
All right.
So the view's a little wonky. I'm sorry. You'll just have to trust me here. So like I said, it was Ordo Fanaticus. We haven't had a major for a very long time, a GT in a little less time. So it was really cool to see all of these people. I ran into a friend of mine I haven't seen in literally 20 years, and now he's like playing Votan. So now I have another person I can practice with. I came in 67th out of 110, but I gotta say, every single game that I played, even if I lost, was such an amazing learning experience and like an excellent just like social interaction. I cannot recommend it enough. Yeah, it completed just over like 24 hours ago. It was player place terrain, obviously a major, so we got 6 rounds, Arcs of Omen and GT pack, and then like I said, it upgraded to a major of all things, which Colton, who's the guy who hosted it, he seemed real cool on the days of the event, but the days leading up to it, he was a frantic, busy man.
He busted out all that terrain for those 50 tables over like 2 weeks. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and it meant that every single table had the same amount of terrain and the same pieces. Arrayed in a there were a little bit of differences between each table, but everyone had the exact same mirror pieces, so there was no like weird situation where like one table gets whatever's left over and it's just a bunch of barricades or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
My list was 2,000 points Grey Knight. Prescient Brethren started with 2 CP. I had the Mortal Wounds Libby. I guess I put Stormbolter on here for some reason. He actually had the Combi Melta. That's important because it matters later. Tech Brain with Gate of Infinity and the Divination Warlord trait. Grandmaster Dread Knight with Gate of Infinity in Pyrrhic Amplification. I actually had the hammer on him. And then, of course, the sigil of exigence and the 3-up invul thing. 3 strike squads with swords, 25 interceptors with halberds, 3 DKs loaded to the gills, and then 1 rhino. So, pretty good list. Round 1, I went into Iron Hands. This was into Scott. I never played Iron Hands, and the first thing I saw is this motherfucker brought an Astreus.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. Lex is asking... how much coffee did that dude drink? I don't think I saw him walking around without coffee in his hand the entire time. So
coffee and rock stars all the time.
Yeah. So I mean, he's a busy dude. Yeah, I never played Iron Hands. I knew they were good, and I found out why. This was actually a pretty tight game. Turn 1, like he was talking to me. He says, "Yeah, I've played Grey Knights. You're gonna come out and pulverize me," and I'm like, internally I'm like, you might be surprised, buddy. I think I got turn 1 and I didn't do anything. Like, moved out, I did purifying, and then he's like, "Oh, are you done?" I'm like, "Yep." I stayed hidden. He had the Astreus, he had 2 Redemptors, he had 2 Gladiator Reapers, just a shitload of tanks and vehicles, just tons of ranged firepower. So I knew I could score like 80 points if I never left my side of the table. So that was my game plan, was to not leave my side of the table. He was very, very surprised. But the highlights were when he rolled his Astreus up into my lines, because he just walked it right into my line. So like turn 1, or turn 3, it's almost in my deployment zone. That's when I actually like jumped out and started doing things like a stalking tiger. Rawr! I just like popped out, and I knew the Astreus's like void shield thing, so I just shot it with like 120 Stormbolter shots, got rid of the void shields, then all the good shooting, then all the good like smites and lots of like mortal wounds, and I popped it in 1 round with like stuff left over afterwards. I think I charged it with 1 strike squad because I had like 4 wounds left, and I said this should be enough because they have Hammerhand.
This is why you don't bring big stuff to a tournament most of the time.
And if you are like, that thing flies, put it on top of a ruin and just have it shoot stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, anyway, he brought it to me. I killed it. Unfortunately, the way Iron Hands work is, so with the new Devastator Doctrine change, they can stay in that, right? Iron Hands get massive bonuses for shooting heavy weapons and or being in Devastator Doctrine. So they never take the penalty to moving with heavy weapons in the Devastator Doctrine. So all their heavy weapons are in Devastator, so they have -1 more AP. They score Codex Warfare now, like clockwork, because they can stay in Devastator the whole time. So every time they kill anything of yours is 2 points, because they're only killing you with heavy weapons.
Right.
Right. They have that 6-up. Feel no pain. He was playing pure Iron Hands, not the one that you usually see that's like Whirlwind of Rage and Master Artisans, I think. So, but anyway, crazy amount of like strat support. He was able to like give his infantry 5-up Feel no pains in every phase, and I'm like, man, that is so good. Like, that must be nice to have such cool strats that are useful and cheap. How cool is that?
And that transhuman, huh?
Yeah,
one CP.
That cheap transhuman, yeah. So, anyway, it was great. It was back and forth, awesome. Opponent, we were cracking jokes and stuff. My mortal wounds Libby, he pops down, goes Kamehameha, full wound Redemptor, does like 12 mortal wounds with his brain bullets, pops out that Combi Melta, hits wounds 6 damage for 8 total damage. So he soloed a Redemptor by himself, which was amazing. And he's looking at me like, is that legal? And I'm like, yeah, buddy. This is all he does. And then yeah, and then it actually came down to one roll. It was a super tight game. I needed to Gate of Infinity my Grandmaster onto one of his objectives, and I went second. So I was scoring at the end of my turn. And he had nothing on that objective because he's Space Marines and they're sticky. So he left. He just said, fuck it, I'm leaving. So I got my Grandmaster on there and I needed Gate of Infinity to go off. And then I was going to shoot his unprotected Librarian, which was sitting in the middle, where if I got that cast off, I could just kill him instantly. That would have been 5 points for teleport assault and 4 on the primary. So 9 points, and then I would have taken 4, or well, he already scored, so 9 extra points, right? Gate did not go off. CP re-rolled it. Gate did not go off. But yeah. I even told him, like, this is my plan, because we were real tight on time. I'm like, if I can get this one cast off, I win the game. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Let's see what happens, right? So it didn't happen. I instead of winning by 2, I lost by 7, I think. So it's really tight game.
Yeah, that would have made the difference, right?
Yeah, right, which was awesome. So as you can see by the scores, it was 81-73. So I lost by 8 points. So I would have won by 1 point. But still, this was super awesome. Never played this matchup before. Awesome opponent. Like, I learned what his tricks were, so I just started hiding my whole army, and I'm like, if you want your points, you gotta come get them. You only get points for killing me and coming to my objectives, because he took shock tactics. So he had to come to me, and I'm like, you can come to me.
Yeah, okay.
Like, give me those 3-inch charges, give me all that shooting where it's close up, like, I will kill you. But I think I learned that like 1 turn too late, really. Super fun though. Awesome time. So round 1, lessons learned. Thanks, Matt. Again, this view is really weird. I'm really sorry. This was kind of a last minute thing that Zack and I threw. But the Mortal Wounds Libby is an absolute god. He lived this whole game, and he was a holy terror. At one point, I think my opponent is like, are you gonna keep him over there? And I'm like, probably. And he said, okay, I'm not going over there. Like, you can have it. You can have that corner of the board. I'm like, cool, man.
So was this a theme for your Mortal Wounds? Mortal Wounds Libby for the rest
there
of
was
the tourney?
I don't think there was a game that he didn't do something massive. I think the Orcs game I played into, he shit the bed a little bit. But every other game, he was like he did something clutch. Playing KG really worked out. Like, one of the things that I am working on as a player personally is I love to be aggressive. Too goddamned aggressive. My army is too fragile to be that aggressive with. So I need to be a lot more KG. So that's what I went into this tournament, was like, I gotta play KG. I have to, if I'm gonna charge, I need to like charge with 1 unit or the whole army, right? Like, no, like none of this giving away 1 unit for free for 2 CP for, like interrupt stuff that I usually do. No throwing away my Grandmaster on turn 2. Like, I gotta keep them going, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Ironically, I think I have to play more KG as well. With my orcs.
Yeah.
I have more units to soak up not being KG.
Yeah.
But against certain armies, like any other melee army, I gotta play a little bit KGier. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that was my round 1. It was awesome. We came down to like Colton was walking over like, hey, stop rolling dice. And I'm like, we're not, man. We're talking I'm like, we have to make 2 dice rolls and it decides the whole game. And he's like, oh, okay, fine, but just do it fast. Like, you need to go eat lunch. So we did. Round 2 was into Blood Angels, another army I'd never played. It was a dude named Arturo. He was also very fun. He's been playing Blood Angel since like 5th edition or something. So
wow.
so like he had all these gnarly old models and things, and just awesome guy.
I love seeing old models on the board, man.
Yeah, he was talking about how I guess in like 5th, Blood Angels could take a chaplain dreadnought, this crazy command land raider, which was a Blood Angels only model, and then like some blood priest or something as one HQ slot.
Oh, I thought you were starting a joke.
No, yeah. All those things walk into a bar.
Into a bar?
Yeah. Some of the old models are really good. I have some of the old Grey Knight models, and honestly, I'm not that impressed.
I'll tell you what, I got some of the old orc models. I'm going to grab one real quick. It is horrible. It's not a 40K model, but it is horrible. Plus, I painted it when I was 13.
Aw, that's adorable. So my Mortal Wounds Libby soloed some Sanguinary Guard. Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, you painted it when you were 13? That's pretty cute. You should stick him in your army, man. Yeah. So
I might.
He had two 5-mans of, or one 10-man and one 5-man. I don't remember. He had a bunch of Sanguinary Guard, or maybe it was a 9-man. Whatever. It was a bunch of them, and I know that they're flying Terminators, but that's all I'd ever been told. So when I asked them what their profile actually is, it's like, oh, they're not 3 wounds. And then I'm like, my Libby can just kill them, right? Like, if they're 3 wounds, it gets real dicey to kill the whole unit. But if they're 2 wounds, easy peasy.
Yeah, I was going through Sanguinary Guard in that first game, like butter.
Yeah, man. Like, the 2-up is good, like really, really good. And the -1 AP on their normal bolters is also very, very good. But, yeah. So turn 2, I think it was, he had moved up. He grabs his middle ground objectives. He placed his terrain really well. He knew I had pretty oppressive like volumes of shots, so he hid really well. But then I just deep struck and nuked an entire unit of Sanguinary Guard off of an objective. I knew the Mortal Wounds Libby was gonna die the very next turn. But killing one of...
just close the door?
Yeah, that's Loken. Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to...
he's discovered he can close doors, so... and now he's gonna get mad because he's stuck inside. Oh, no, he's trying to open the door. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, so he came down, killed a whole bunch of, like, Sanguinary Guard. My opponent took Relentless Assault, or Relentless Advance, or whatever, which he had to get into my deployment zone. He put a whole bunch of stuff in Deep Strike to try to get in my deployment zone, but I brought some shaft, like I brought some servitors and I brought some acolytes, so I just had them sit in the back.
You've always had a really good screening game, though, too.
I'm Grey Knights. Like, I know what that's like, you know? I know what it's like when you leave room open for, like, 5 strike squads to come in there, or a Grandmaster when you shoot at him and he's like, yes, now I'm in your backfield, right?
That's the only reason that I have any decent screening game is from playing you and you popping in the back all the time.
Thanks, man.
There's a joke there.
I do like that back game. So he was constantly like congratulating me, like, yep, you screwed me out again. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna let you just get in here. You know, I'm denying you points. But I took behind enemy lines, and he's a melee army. He had like a unit of 5 aggressors, I think, and the Land Raider, and that was almost all of his shooting. He had some Terminators, some Sanguinary Guards, so like some bolt pistols and things, and some like bolt rifles, but his good shooting was 2 units, and that was it. So I took behind enemy lines, knowing he was going to try to come out, and it's tear down their icons, which is where you do the action to plant the bomb. So I would have a strike squad come down, land, score me 3 points, get me a command point, because they actually changed that, and then plant a bomb.
Oh man, you remember to plant the bomb game
I
too?
did, yeah.
Neither Tanner or I planted a single bomb.
Oh, I believe it. I had the like book out and basically placed like over my dice tray, so I had to move it every time that I wanted to roll dice. And I'm
That's
like, oh yeah,
thinking
bombs.
right
Oh
there.
yeah, bombs. So what he does is in one turn he ends up turning his unit of aggressors around to go defuse the bomb, and I'm like, yes, stay over there. Then the next turn I come down with my other strike squad. They score me behind enemy lines. 3 points, plant a bomb, and he turns a unit of sanguinary guard around to do the same thing. He's like, I have to stop you from scoring this. So he has these 2 really expensive, really good units in his backfield. Those aggressors tried for 3 turns to defuse that bomb and kept rolling really low and couldn't turn it off. And that bomb still went off. So his aggressors were just stuck in the back like, power fist too big to defuse bomb or whatever. Like they couldn't do it. It's so funny. He finally ends up scoring a few, like he gets some assault intercessors in my backfield. He's trying to like deny me primary in the middle with an impulsor, which I just looked at and it exploded. It was a great game though. So I think it came down to 84-77. So tight game actually. Purifying Ritual, I only got off 9 because I had some of the worst psychic phases of the entire event where like I'd have units on 3 and I'd only pass 1 psychic test to actually score it. So like I'd score 2 and then 2 and then I think I scored 4 or something, right? Like I was barely scoring anything. Teleport Assault, I only got 10 on because I was playing KG again, trying to not like overexpose and get charged. Because as you know, in the charge phase, you can give Terminators, who are usually very slow, a whole lot of free movement if you're really dumb. So like they move 5, they charge you for 7, let's say. They then get a 3-inch pile-in, they murder you, and then they get a 3-inch consolidate. So you've just given a movement 5 unit 13 inches of extra movement.
Yeah.
And that's 1 turn. So that's like gnarly. I was trying to not do that. I also knew I couldn't kill his Terminators really, not with AP2 shooting and AP2 melee. Like it's not happening. So I ignored his Terminators. They eventually got in my backfield and then I couldn't ignore them anymore. And he ended up with 12 for Relentless Assault. O's of a moment is impossible to stop Space Marines from scoring really if they have anything good. Like he threw out a unit of Blade Guard turn 1, he threw out a unit of Sanguinary Guard turn 2, he threw out like a character turn 3, and I was popping them, but he was scoring like 3 to 4 every single turn.
There you go.
So I was denying it, but he was still getting it. So I guess I wasn't denying it. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, great game. Once again, the Mortal Wounds Libby is a boss. He came down and did something my opponent did not expect. He told me after the game that move actually made him it threw him out of his OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. So basically he threw away his entire plan. He's like, shit, I did not need that. And then the bombs too. I guess I didn't actually upgrade.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard the term OODA loop.
Yeah, it's an old term, I think, but also Blood Angels on turn 3 when they're in Assault Doctrine, holy shit. So I knew that they always get like +1 to charge and +1 to wound. They get like a whole bunch more stuff when it's Assault Doctrine. So that's why I think your game into Blood Angels, when you got to table them turn 2, I'm like, man, you should have waited till turn
2. The game was over turn 2.
Oh, okay.
But I tabled them turn 4.
Yeah, turn 3 though is when they get real nar.
Yeah, he was too neutered by turn 3.
Yeah. So again, like behind enemy lines was just great. It was scoring me my command points, which left my my Tech Marine open to not just use my Warlord trait to score me 1 CP. he could actually cast other stuff. So gate or like scoring me purifying was nice. And then turn 3 was into Chaos Knights. I played this man named Jason, who I didn't know it at the time, is actually one of the guys that also hosts a whole bunch of events here. More in the southern, like central and southern area of
no, it's
Oregon.
Actually, he owns a place, not Oregon. He's in Washington. He's over at Hokeland. It's
hey Sindri, what's up?
Shore. It's right by Ocean Shores.
Oh, okay. It's on the coast then. All right.
Yeah, it's on the coast. In fact,
I gotta open this door because now the dog's all like all riled up.
Hey Sindri, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you on the stream. Or at least chatting on the stream.
Stupid cat.
Okay, so what I was going to say is, in fact, next month, April 27th, 28th, I think it is, he is hosting a GT himself, the Tau tipping one, and there's still 25 tickets for it.
No, Imer. Bad timing, buddy.
I was talking with Tanner earlier today. He said that he's going to try and make it out to that. So
yeah,
I might try.
We'll talk. I think it'd be a whole lot of fun. So round 3 was versus Chaos Knights. This guy has been playing 40k since he like fell out of his mom's womb. Long time player. He loves his Chaos Knights too, which I learned that the player I beat in the RTT a few months ago, actually, months now, was not playing his Desolation rules correctly. Cause what in the hell? He's a really nice guy though. He walked me through everything, explained it over and over. So the Desolation stuff, the big thing for me is that as Grey Knights, I have a leadership of 8 with my sergeants for some reason. Desolation plays entirely off of your leadership and reducing your leadership and then making you have to roll rolls to shoot at stuff that isn't the closest target, or roll a morale roll to see if you can make a charge. And if you fail the morale roll, then you get half off your charge. So like suddenly like a 3-inch like charge is now like pretty failable because you need a 6 on the dice. Just gnarly stuff. And that's beside the fact that like he's reducing my leadership by 3. So if he kills one model, I go from leadership 8 to leadership 4. I'm a Gretchen all of a sudden. It's just so crazy. Anyway, he also played an entirely different list. So the other guy I played had 2 really big knights. He only had 1 and a shitload of like, I think he had 9 war dogs.
Yeah. I was talking with him before the game, and he was like, I didn't know he was playing you. I was outside chatting with him, and he was telling me all about the Desolation, and I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, into orcs.
Rough. And then you went, and then I walked by and I saw that you were paired with them. I was like, oh, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, man. It's just like my Deathwatch veterans have 9, but Grey Knights have 8. Okay, whatever. Anyway, it came into play like multiple times. I've never seen Grey Knights run that often. And he was purposefully like, I'm gonna shoot 3 shots into this squad, which has 5 guys in it, just to make you do a morale check. And I'll throw 3 shots in this squad that has 5 guys just to make you do a morale check. I'm like, man, like free shooting, basically. Anyway, nice guy. But into that matchup, it's already hard. Because like they're T9, they're T8 on the big guys, T7 on the small guys. He ran House Herpetrex, so his big guy had 28 wounds and his little guys had 14 wounds.
And they all had rashes that came up every once in a while.
Yeah, and then one of his secondaries, when he does it on an objective and he can only do it on each one once, it turns that secondary into a desolation spot for the rest of the game with a 12-inch radius. And this was Data Scry salvage, which are naturally sticky, and he has 9 models that are 5 obsec that move 14, and for 1 CP he can auto advance one of them 9 inches.
Holy shit, I did not realize I had a 9-inch on one of those.
9-inch auto advance for 1 CP. So he got all over the board, grabbed everything turn 1. I went first, and I was being very cautious again. I didn't want to overexpose. I knew they had a whole lot of shooting. I didn't want to give out free charges, all that stuff. So I just kind of moved out and towed into some stuff. I cast some Purifying Ritual. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. It's your turn. And then he was just everywhere. It's like, what's going on? And, you know, he has like strength 14 melee. I have strength 6. You know, like,
it sounds, yeah, but you had 5 guys, so that's like 30, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
you just added up.
Yeah. No, it was a great game, and like he was very funny. He was very like helpful. He would remind me of things. He was even like, hey, you should maybe like move this way, and that'll like help you score more points. So I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Like I didn't think about it that way. So really nice guy, even though this was a matchup that would just felt like it wasn't an uphill battle. I was like free climbing a rock cliff, you know?
In the rain.
And unlike the other Chaos Knight lists where he had 2 Psychers, this one had none. So he took Abhor the Witch.
15 points.
Which just feels so bad. Like, imagine you play... I guess for him, he knows Bring It Down pretty much scores 15 against him almost every game. So he kind of has the same thing going on. But, man, every time Abhor comes out, it feels so bad. I'm like, oh, I'm already starting 15 down, you know? But otherwise, it was a great game. I think my Mortal Wounds Libby popped a War Dog in this game. But that was like, which is pretty cool. Or he finished one off or something. But he didn't do anything like massively crazy. My Grandmaster made it all the way through the whole game. Actually, I don't think I lost my Grandmaster except in the Orc game. I was being really cagey with him, trying to keep him around for the buffs and the aura for OBSEC and his, you know, like reroll 1s, and so I was trying to be a lot smarter. But as you can see from the score on the screen, my opponent scored 97. I was able to kick him off of an objective last turn and deny him 3 points because he ran away with the primary, but he was doing something with a secondary. I think it was Storm of Darkness. So I stopped him from scoring a perfect game. But only because I kicked him off of 1 objective at the last second.
All right.
I scored 49. Again, super fun though. Like, this is the thing. Like, I learned a lot. He was very, very helpful. He was a nice dude. I would play him again in a heartbeat. But lessons learned, other than Mortal Wounds and the Grandmaster with the hammer, which I'm really glad I gave him the hammer and not the sword throughout multiple matchups with all the like vehicles you see now, and like big demons and stuff. Anyway, other than that, I have nothing that can touch him. I'm like wounding on 5s or 6s the entire game. He can, you know, hit me on 2s, wound me on 3s, or 2s. In the entire army. I did pwn his big knight on turn 2, but Jason was kind of made it clear that that's how the list is actually built, that it's kind of a distraction, but you have to kill it. It's not really a distraction because he buffs his army so much, but if he loses it, it's not a big deal because he has 9 little knights running around actually scoring. And I'm like, okay. So what am I supposed to do? And he's like, I don't know, bring tanks or something. I'm like, well, we don't have tanks.
He ran into tanks later, though.
Oh, yeah, no, he did say going into guard is like an auto loss.
Yeah.
For him, because it's just too many tanks. His Helvrin adjacent units are just perfectly attributed to kill Dread Knights. They have 4d3 shots each of a autocannon that is strength 7, so wounding a Dread Knight on 3s. They are -2 AP, so you're bringing me right down to my invul. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's flat 3 damage, and I don't have -1 damage on my Dread Knights. So it's so many shots, all on 4-ups, that they just look at a Dread Knight, and the Dread Knight just dissipates. It's poof. Like, it's just, unless he rolls really low shots, or you get really lucky spiking invuls, they just evaporate. So I was being really cagey. Trying to not just give him Dread Knights.
Just hearing you talk about this, like Chaos Knights is one of those armies that I've been like, well, if I was to do another army, maybe Chaos Knights, maybe not. No, and then the Dwarves came out, and I got super excited about it, and I'm still maybe 500 points put together and painted at this point, and I'm like, maybe I should start collecting some Chaos Knights now. They are fun. Like,
the modeling seems really, really fun, honestly.
Yeah.
Playing it seems fun. Like, he was laughing. He's like, I only need 12 dice. My dice bag, and he like pointed at mine, which is this potato salad bucket, which has like 80 dice in it. I'm not even kidding. I bought like
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I bought 80 dice, and then I had like a D8 for my, like my CP counter, and I had 4 D12s for my wounds on my Dread Knights, and he's like, I need 12 dice. I have 10 models. My rounds go really fast. He's just like, he's chill, He's like, this is easy. Yeah. I don't have to worry about 60 models, or if I'm playing like Conscript Guard, like 300 models or whatever, He's just like, this is easy. I love it. Anyway, awesome guy. So that concluded day 1. I was on cloud 9, even though I was 1 and 2 at that point. And you, sir, which honestly, I gotta say, losing game 1, like, all this stress fell away. Like, immediately. You're just like, because I'm a fucking tryhard. I'll be honest, right? I don't want to be a bad opponent, but like, I want to win. That's why, like, we play this game to win,
Oh, absolutely.
But when I lost that like first game, that means there's no way. There's no way. I mean, not that I was ever gonna win it anyway, but like, there's no way you're placing super high at that point, unless you go on a tear and then win your next 5 games. But so I was just, all that faded away. I didn't have to keep my win streak going. I'd already lost. So I think that might have actually helped me have a more fun time, because I wasn't trying to be too much of a tryhard.
Day 1, I was ready to go. It's just my back was so damn sore. I already lost. I mean, not that I was surprised, but I was also looking forward to using that pimp ass streaming station that I spent Friday night setting up, gave it to Colby to run. And I was like, oh.
I wish we had some photos. So we should explain. Lloyd Center is an old mall in the area, and malls across America are dying. They were already dying before the pandemic, and the pandemic was kind of the final nail in the coffin for most malls. So we played in an old H&M, and then across the main mall aisle from there was an old Victoria's Secret, and we played in there too. So obviously there's nothing in there. There's no like displays and stuff. But on the H&M side was this giant circular desk that used to be where all the cash registers were. And it looked like, I don't know, it looked like a game show like thing.
I just resent it to your Discord so you can share it if you want.
Okay, I'll try.
This is before I set it up, but
yeah, I'll try to. Yeah. Anyway, so it was like this TV station, like circular news desk kind of thing, and you set it all up for this streaming station. It was pretty cool.
I mean, I ended up screwing up the streaming thing anyway. It was great live, I'm sure.
Yeah. Too bad you didn't set it to keep VODs, buddy.
Yeah, well, I thought that was default. It was when I set up my first Twitch account.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, so going into day 2, how are you feeling?
I was feeling medicated and ready to rock. I was really excited actually because I do. So day one, when they were doing the streaming, they were just doing random games there. Day two was top table the entire time. So I got to see a lot of really good players. I got to see a lot of people showing like I learned a ton just watching these games.
Yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
Movement is where it's all at. I mean, you hear people say that. I know that's it, but when you actually watch these players that are at this higher level of the people I play with actually play, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first game I think it was. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. It's on page 3 of my notes. That was Ryan Cherowich with his what did he have there? World Eaters. Oh yeah, he pretty much had the same list Tanner had, and he
Dude.
was going into Custodes.
Man.
So it was the two lists that beat me on Monday.
Uh-huh.
I gotta watch them go at it, and super tight every single game.
Did Ryan end up? Ryan ended up eking out a win, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because Ryan came in like 4th.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and yeah, I thought that was a Custodes win until end of turn 3. And it was because Custodes were keeping the world leaders off the primary objectives. The scoring there wasn't happening for the world leaders. But in round 3, all of a sudden, the world leaders had killed enough Custodes where they could just take the primary and run with it.
Oh man.
So I don't have a good play-by-play, unfortunately, on that, but it was so.
It was
a good game to watch.
I'll go over this again with my World Eaters game, but World Eaters secondaries are crazy. So
right,
if you or if you or your opponent dies on an objective, they get a point.
That's a blood tide.
No, I'm not even talking about the blood tide points. I'm talking about like they get a victory point.
Yeah, they get a victory point.
They have one where if they kill a character or vehicle or monster, it's 2, and it doesn't have to be on an objective. If they kill anything else, it's worth 1. That stacks with the other one, by the way. So basically, if you lose one of your units on an objective, you gave them 2 points. If they lose one of their units on an objective, you gave them 1 point. And then they have their final one is they can cash in blood tithe points for victory points.
Up to 4 a round.
Up to 4 a round. So basically the last 4 turns when they're swimming in blood tide, or 3 turns when they're swimming in blood tide points, they're just getting 4 VP every round for a total of they can spike up to 15 on that one, I think. I don't think it's 12. So they can get 15 on it. And they're gonna get 15 for the other ones because you're gonna kill them and they're gonna kill you. Like, it's insane. Like, they're gonna score at least like 42 on primary or on secondary every single game. Their secondaries are so good, and they're very corn, but like very good.
All right, so that's the first game. Now we'll go back and forth. Your first game on day 2. There we go.
Oh, okay. So I do want to point out that Sindri brought up Anchorman 2, and the minigun was the only way Brick could bring out a gun bigger than just walking around with a hand grenade like he did in Anchorman 1. So there you go. But World Eaters, as I said, when some folks walked up to watch my game, I said, "Oh, World Eaters, fuck. They are really good."
Yeah. That was the first thing you said to me when I came by. You said, "World Eaters, fuck." And I was like, I already know.
Dude, and I knew that, and I was playing KG. Anyway, so we'll get there. Going back to my shitty presentation over here. Where's the slideshow? Here we go. So round 4. Oh no, I don't want you guys to see all of that. Oh no, you saw my
Oh, they're
my
seeing
whole
how the
desktop
sausage
for
is
us.
made.
You saw my whole desktop for a moment. You saw my Steam name. Oh no, which is Leaky Butthole, by the way.
That's a lot of those.
BUTWHOLE, because I'm 11 and I'll always be 11.
Ironically, that should be mine because I'm
No.
old with gut issues.
Nope. 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 So round 4 into Dark Angels
Shut
was my buddy Warwick. He was actually my first tournament opponent ever. And I was playing my Grey Knights then, and so we kind of had like a rematch. Only this time, his army is the best Space Marine chapter in the game. So, and Warwick is no slouch. So I was going into this like, all right, I'm gonna score as many points as I can. I'm gonna have a great time. Like Warwick's a great guy. And you know, I'm gonna lose. I didn't lose. Spoilers, I beat him, and I beat him real good. It felt
Handedly,
really,
one might say.
handedly. It felt really good. And if Warwick ever watches this, he's a great sport. He knows. It came down to kind of like one big mistake he made, unfortunately, on turn 1 that I saw and capitalized on. But the mortal wound Libby slaps. He was super good. Dark Angels Terminators aren't scary if you never interact with them, by the way.
Right.
If you just ignore them, I'm fast. I can teleport all over the board, and most of my infantry move 12, and I can double move them for 24.
Yeah,
so
pretty easy for you to stay out of that 8 inches away.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna let the Terminators touch me, and it's fine. I got to schwack 2 of his best characters on turn 1. So this was player place, so he put down one really big wall. It was just like a straight wall. It was tall, it was obscuring, it was a ruin. And he moved his chaplain up in front of his whole army, right behind that wall. Because he wasn't afraid of my melee or a charge, he was afraid of my shooting. So he hides behind the wall where he's safe. I think after this round, I'm gonna have to let out my dog. He is just like throwing a fit now, which is weird because he just went out right before we streamed. But here we are, dogs. Anyway, and then right behind that character was his Ravenwing Apothecary. So I walk around the table and I see it and I'm like, that's your chaplain, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's your Ravenwing Apothecary, right? And he said, yep. And I'm like, did you mean to have them on the wall? He said, well, yeah. Because, you know, I'm going to spring out on my next turn. And I'm like, dude, you know, I told you I can move 15 out of these rhinos. And he's like, yep. I'm like, did you intend to have them out front? He said, and then he's like, this little light bulb.
Yeah.
He's like, oh shit. And I'm like, you can move them if you want, man. Like, you're a solid dude. Like you're on my team. I think this is like a really big mistake. And he's like, I gotta take it on the chin, man. It's the only way I'm not gonna make the same mistake. And I'm like, okay. So turn 1, move 15 out of the rhino. I'm only like 5 inches away. Charge in. Tag his 2 characters. They die. And I'm like, here we go.
Are a big part of that list, too.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
that's
a
what makes
huge part.
that Terminator block super frustrating. They're already frustrating when you're fighting those Terminators. Like, I just can't get through them. They all have transhuman. They got that goddamn 2-up, 1-up, or whatever it is.
1-up, yeah.
Yeah, 3 wounds. And then you start getting them down, and then they got that guy in the back. He's just going, I think you should feel better. Or they'll heal one, and then they'll bring the guy that you just spent so much time, blood, sweat, and tears killing. They just bring him right back. Bring him back closer to you. I mean,
yeah. So I go in there. I threw away 2 interceptor squads, but I'm like, this is worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. I threw them in there. I knew they were gonna die. They of course immediately died. But they got, each one of them got one of the characters, and I was just like, all right, like, again, a bunch of stress like flew off of me because I'm like, all right, I got their 2 like linchpin characters. I think he had not Azrael, he had like Ezekiel, and he had Talon Master were his other 2 characters. But yeah, oh, and then I teleport striked up, or I Gate of Infinity up, and I popped his infiltrators that were on his Stubborn Defiance on turn 2. So he only scored, oh no, I got them on turn 3. So he only scored 3 for Stubborn. And I knew I had to stop him from scoring that. So I was going to throw away Dread Knights to do it. I was going to do whatever I had to stop him from scoring his automatic 15, right? It's kind of like when I play you and I know I have to kill like all your troops. Because if you're
Gretchen.
Well, but also if your like bikes or whatever start doing it, I'm like, great. They're back there, and then I can deal with them on my turn because you don't score it until, right? So it's the same thing.
So Sindri's asking if Death Knights were in vogue. Have Death Knights ever not been in vogue? At least since I've been playing.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring up his question. So they were in vogue. Right. They were. Oh no, man, it's fine. This is what co-hosts do. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, yes, like we had a lot of Dark Angels players there. I think I don't know what the like amount was, but it seemed to be a healthy amount. A lot of the Marine players there were playing DA. But Deathwing Knights are actually, I don't know, are the Knights the command guys? Because these were Deathwing Terminators, but I don't know if those are the same as Deathwing Knights, or if Deathwing Knights are another data sheet. I don't know my Dark Angels well.
I just assumed it was the Terminators, and that's what you call them.
Yeah, maybe. You might be right. I don't know. Because I know there are also like Deathwing Command Squads, and that's its own thing, and those are like 3 Terminators, or I don't know. It's a whole, I don't know. And then Warwick was saying, as we're like setting up our terrain and stuff, he's like, man, I'm really worried about those amount of mortals you can do. And I'm like, well, we'll see, because usually I'm buffing myself and not doing mortal wounds. But no, I had like I had one like crazy psychic phase where I think I got 2 super smites off from like normal infantry squads, and then I got like my mortal wounds. Libby went ape shit. I think he got like a super purifying flame, so that's 3 plus D3 mortals, plus 1 from psychic epitome. So it was bonkers. I had my Libby moving up with my Dread Knights as like a charge screen. I'm like, charge me, and you get 14 mortal wounds, right? Basically. So he's like walking right between these 2 Dread Knights. And they're just like shooting at everything, and he's just like blowing up brains. And eventually it got to where I was just suiciding him into squads of Terminators, because I got him like down to 1 Terminator. I'm like, he does have a force weapon, and I am in the Tide of Convergence. Let's see what happens. And he'd like pop the last Terminator. So he's just
I guess that's not really a suicide, is it?
Well, he's in there like fucking, I don't know, Michael Jordan or whatever, like at his peak, like unstoppable.
I mean, Michael Jordan was known for swinging around a power sword.
A warding stave in this case, but yes, it was just fucking great. I had him on the ropes the whole game. It started with that turn 1 charge, and it was really fun. Like Wart's a fantastic guy, a fantastic opponent. The whole time he's like, we're teaching each other about our armies and stuff. But I was
going to say, Warwick is, he's known for being a good guy and fun guy to play. How many times has he won in the RTTs? Has he won best player to play against?
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up.
My very first tournament, and I won that.
Nice. Yeah, So he's a great guy. to Dungeon Pastor's point, just let him die. I'm gonna go on now. He's banned from winning again at RTTs. It's Jed, right? Jed?
Yeah, I'm assuming
you?
it's Jed.
So I scored maximum on primary. Honestly, I could have probably, if I'd been keeping track of the score better, I could have probably brought more stuff off of my back objectives because I'd already maxed it, probably in turn 4. But I kept stuff back there just because, like, that's the way you play the game. Scored amazingly well on behind enemy lines. Again, I was doing that thing where I was forcing him to come back at me with stuff that he didn't want to come back at me with. So he was turning around squads of Terminators. He put 2 squads of Terminators in Deep Strike. I screened them out really, really well, including in the middle by the turn 3 when he brought them in. And so he could only bring them in his deployment zone. And he was going after my strike squads that were back there, just scoring me behind enemy lines. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is what I want you to do. Like, go after my 100-point units with your 450-point Terminators or whatever they are. I don't think they're that expensive, but, like, you know, please.
God, I hope so. Actually, no, I hope they are. I hate those Terminators.
I took retrieve battlefield data. I never take this. I hate this. As a Grey Knights player of an elite army, it feels bad to be doing this with like 100 or 120 point units. But because I took behind enemy lines, it stacks up really, really well. So my strike squads would pop down. They'd score me 3 for behind enemy lines. They'd give me 1 command point, and then they do retrieve battlefield data. In fact, my 4th score was in my own deployment zone because I scored my first one in my deployment zone turn 1, and then 2 and 3 were in his side, and then 4 was on my side. So it went that well. Purifying Ritual actually went off this game. You'll see in some of my other games, it does very poorly. Purifying Ritual, when they changed it to a 6, really changed how good that is. In my World Eaters game, I almost didn't take it because it had been doing so poorly for me most games. With that said, though, I'm going to let you get into your round 4. I got to let this dog out. I'll be right back.
So I think I already talked about round 4. So I'm going to go into my game 5, or round 5 that I wasn't actually playing. But as I said before, game 4 with Ryan and Steve, that was super close. I didn't think I'd see a closer game. I did. And I was also heavily surprised. So game 5 was Alex Pina playing his sister's list over Rich Dudley's Chaos Demons. Both these guys are really good players. Obviously, they're at the top table. I was super excited when Rich brought over his miniatures. He had his big boys. He had a Be'lakor, and then his Bloodthirster was this giant dragon. I think there was a Hobbit underneath it, but nobody mentioned it there. Wow, that was a close game. I mean, I wish I could talk about it more, but I didn't take notes while I was there. I was just watching it, and I'm not as, observant as Rick. But so most of that game, it also looked like Rich was going to win. But Alex is an amazing Sisters player. I mean, and because of that, he was able to eke out an 86 over 83 win there. I have not known Sisters to be any sort of meta, but except, the last round, right? They were pretty meta there. Alex is really good. Rich is good. They're both really nice guys. They were very helpful as I was streaming the game, getting me their phone so I could see the points. So I do remember that the Flamers were doing work, of course, and I had forgotten that they no longer auto hit. So I thought things were going better than they were. Then all of a sudden he's rolling again. I was like, oh yeah. Those big boys came up on the left flank. They were killing Sisters like crazy, but he made the same mistake that I think a lot of people do against sisters. It's he had so many characters out, and so it seemed like obvious that you would take assassination. Apparently, assassination on sisters is a trap. It's a trap. I mean,
Es una trampa.
yes. I mean, Alex went to go win that game, and it was because of the fact that Rich was unable to get those assassination secondary points. And that ended up being a theme to the next game. But we can go ahead and move on over to Rick's game 5 now, because I didn't have a lot of notes on that game. There was a lot going on. I just kept going back and forth and going, oh, look. Oh, he's got the big guys out there coming along the left. Oh, he's killing a bunch of sisters.
I assume that being on the streaming, like when we were streaming that one RTT for your charity for God, it's the gaming one. I'm sorry, what was it?
Extra Life. Yeah.
Thank you, Extra Life. Yeah. Like we were
being. I had to think about it now.
Yeah. No, we were being asked like between rounds, hey, can you help do this one thing real quick? And we're like,
oh yeah, no, it was
no
distractions.
We're streaming.
We turned into the TO table.
No, yeah, well, that's
Colby
fair.
Kept taking off. He's like, oh, I gotta go do TO work over here. So I mean, it just happens.
So Sindri is asking, so assassination is a sister's trap?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say is the characters weren't going down. They were mobile, they were tough, and Alex was able to keep hiding them, and he was losing troops nonstop. But yeah, the sisters would just survive. And I swear to God, I think he had like 6 characters on the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the sisters.
Yeah, that's sisters.
It's like orcs, right? You always bring like way too many characters, right?
Yeah. But on orcs, you're gonna get the assassination, unless you get smacked into. The sisters, man, he was on the losing foot, and just they have good secondaries, and yeah. I mean, he just kept the points out and eked a 3-point win. So,
yeah,
that was game 5 at the stream desk.
Man, that's wild, man. I'm playing my own games, so I'm like sort of aware that other games are going on, and I know that there's got to be some high level play actually like happening, but I am completely removed from it in every way,
Yeah, I like doing both streaming and playing. I mean, I wish I could play the GT fully and also stream a GT fully, but it's just you can't do it.
There aren't 2 of you. Weird.
Yeah, right.
So my last 2 rounds, my Grandmaster Dread Knight had a really good time because he got to just run around killing like warlords and stuff. It's fantastic. But round 5 was into orcs. I remember I had gone to get food with you or something, Zach, or I ran into you in the hallway, and I'm like, hey, I just got paired into orcs. Like, what do you think about this list? And he's like, that's a weird list. You'll do fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. I get to the table, I'm like, oh, it's Tide of Conviction. Tide of Conviction is where it's long edge deployments.
Never mind.
And so usually when I'm setting up my player place, I'm like, I need to get defenders so I can go ahead and drop like a ruin in the middle so I can decide where all the shooting lanes are gonna be so that I can kill things with my Dread Knights. And I went, I need to put shit in his way for his bikes. His bikes and his cavalry need to not just run right at me, right? So like I set up these crazy like Minotaur labyrinths for his bikes to run through, for Gaz to run through, for his beast boss to run through, his dudes on squigosaurs to run through, all of that. They had to like, I was just like, this must look like a crazy like hellscape, right? Because none of this terrain placement makes any sense. But I'm like, I just have to slow. I can teleport, I can find angles, I'll be fine. I just have to slow down the orcs, right? So I did that. It didn't matter. There's just not enough. There's not enough space on that kind of like deployment.
Awesome
He was more patient than you though, Zach. He waited to turn 2 to pop Wah, but he brought Gaz, so he got the Great Wah. He said he only brought Gaz because of the Great Wah, and he's like, he's a 300-point sink in my army, and I'm like, no, he, like, maybe for you, but like, you know, he's like, I know that my army is uniquely designed to pop Gaz. I can kill him in in 4 of the 5 phases, which is great. I can't kill him in the command or the movement phase, but I can kill him in any other phase theoretically, or at least do damage. Even the charge phase with Thunderous Stride. But you know, he's like talking to me about how Gaz isn't good. And then Gaz proceeds to be pretty good. I mean, yeah, I know he's 300 points, which might seem like he's expensive. It also surprised me because he had the new model, and I think you have the old one.
No, I have the new one and the old one, but I use the new one, the big one.
Okay. Oh, I thought the old one was like huge.
No. The old one is a little dude.
So he puts Gaz out, and it's like, I was like, oh, I thought his model would be bigger. Like, he's half the size of my Grandmaster in the Dread Knight, right? Like, he comes up to his waist. Like, I thought Gaz would be bigger, you know?
Nah, he's about the same size as the Beast Boss on Squigosaur.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm asking him when we get there and we're like learning each other's lists and stuff. And I'm like, you know, have you played Grey Knights before? And he says, yeah, I've played them like lots of times. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to assume then you know how my army works, if that's cool. And he said, yeah, because we're kind of like going for time. I gave him the big stuff, like I have the Grandmaster that can jump away and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't go into like all the nitty gritty shit like when you usually do your list stuff. So we started the game. I got first turn. I immediately gate over a Dread Knight and I blow away a bunch of his grots. And his face, he goes like, oh. Like, he's like, oh shit. Like, he had put stuff out that was kind of like meaty targets for me to shoot at. And I'm like, no, I know where your points are.
This man's played orcs before.
I know where your points come from, bro. And it's those fucking grots. And guess who dies really fast and gets me teleport assault points too? Yep. Grots. So I jump over, I kill a bunch of grots, I get 5, I leave a Dread Knight. I even teleported him. So my list had no warp shaping. And this is how cool Grey Knights are right now. That doesn't matter. You just choose Tide of Convergence unless you're going into demons, and then you choose Tide of Banishment, and then it doesn't matter. Like, the choice doesn't matter after that. You might as well just assume that's your passive army bonus, because that's our best Tide. So I had 30-inch range on my guns. It's a long edge like deployment. So from the back of my deployment edge, I can shoot the front of yours. So I didn't even have to leave my deployment zone. I just went all the way to one edge, as far back as I could. I went like at 29.8 inches, shot all his grots so he couldn't easily charge me. I was playing really cagey again, which doesn't matter on a board that small. It was still in my shit on turn 2.
Yeah, you were still looking pretty good turn 2. Yeah, like I came by right before that, but then he called the wall. You're like, yeah, but he just called the wall. I was like, oh. Yeah,
so I knew, having played you so many times, I knew if I could survive turn 2, I would probably be in an okay spot. Like his turn 3, but he went second. And I know orcs usually want to go first, and I kind of wanted him to go first, but he really wanted to go second. And he got second. Yeah. I really wanted to go second. Yeah, and I got first. So I was trying to play really cagey and all of that. It didn't matter. The Great Wah is both Speed Wah and Normal Wah combined, for those of you that don't know. And you can only do that if you bring Gaz. So he popped that turn 2. He wasn't like you, where you always pop it on turn 1, my friend.
I don't always pop it on turn 1. I always want to pop it on turn 2, and then I feel like I have to pop it on turn 1.
One of my biggest mistakes, I think, is that I assumed if you killed the Warlord, the Wa ended.
Oh no.
So I killed Gaz, and I'm like, now your Wa's over, right? And he's like, what? I'm like, well, I killed Gaz, your Wa's over, right? And he's like, no. I'm like, fuck. I thought that's how that worked. Like the biggest baddest orc dies and all the other orcs like run away. I thought that's how this worked, but apparently not.
You kill him though before he calls Wa.
Yes,
then he can't call Wa.
Right. So I'm like, okay, lesson learned there. That's good to know. Because usually it's your beast boss on Squigosaur that's your like warlord, and I can't kill that dude. So
yeah, he goes really well into Grey Knights.
Yeah, he does.
That -1 damage does a lot of.
And the -1 to wound, because I'm only barely eking over into that like wound you on 3 territory anyway. So when you make me wound on 4s and 5s and instead of 3s and 4s, that hurts a lot. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that is just a crazy orc map. I had a great time. Again, like Rory was super cool, ultra nice guy. My only complaint is that he's quiet and I'm not, and it was loud in there. But that's not
so loud.
That's not really his problem, right? Like he's just that nice of a guy where he's kind of like soft spoken. But yeah, he kept asking me like all the defensive profiles of my knights, and finally I like reached over and I touched his shoulder and I'm like, Rory, if any of your units touch any of mine that aren't a Dread Knight, they die. You don't have to ask me. I don't have invuls. I don't have feel no pains. I have no way to give them those things. If you touch me with anything except your grots, they're going to die. And he's finally is like, okay, I guess I can stop asking you those questions. Because every time, like he said, like I think one commando knob was left once and went into like 3 interceptors and I just like slaughtered him. Right? Like it's just like I have nothing, guys, really. Like defensively, I'm a joke. I hit like Blade Guard on the charge and then I die. I don't get to stay up like Blade Guard do. Yeah. But great game. I tried to use Transhuman here once because I was playing so cagey, not using CP. I waited so long to bring in my Mortal Wounds, Libby. I think on like turn 2, I was floating like 5 CP. I never do that. I never have more than like 3 CP. So I'm like, okay, I'll try Transhuman. I killed Gaz. So these 4, and I killed one of the beast guys on the Squig Hogs, beast riders on Squig. I don't remember, whatever.
Squig Hog Boys.
Squig Hog Boys, that's it. So I killed. I took him from a 5-man to a 3-man, I think it was. They got around. I had left some interceptors out behind some barricades because my plan was next turn I was going to catapult them forward to get me behind enemy lines. I'm like, I need them to stay alive. They come around the corner. None of their shooting goes into them. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. They're going to charge, though, and it's like a 2-inch charge. Rerollable because orcs. Like, they're going to get in. I'll pop Transhuman. I do. And even with Gaz dead, so they lost an attack, I think it was. Because Gaz has, like...
one to hit.
Oh, okay. Well, then they lost... I thought they lost one attack from something else I did, too. But I don't remember. Anyway, I was, like, doing the math in my head really quick. I'm like, okay, I think if I pop Transhuman, they can live. No. Like, the math was, even with Transhuman, they killed that 5-man, like, twice over, and without Transhuman, they would have murdered them, like, 3 times over.
Well, I mean, you look at the standard Squighog boys attacks. It's a 3-2-1, so they each have 6 attacks. 5 of those are 2 damage AP, 2 and 1. So I mean,
but not on Wa, right?
Yeah, on Wa it's a 4-2-1. So
right.
they have 4 AP 2 damage attacks that are hitting on 3s without gas, hitting on 2 with, and since these Goths, exploding 6s.
Like, and everything was like, and because they're Goths, everything is like, he kept explaining to me, he's like, oh yeah, these guys are like normally strength 5, but they get +1 strength from the Wa, and they get +1 strength from Goths, and they get +1 strength from their weapons, so they're actually strength 8.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so you are hitting me on 3s or 2s and wounding me on 2s, my entire army that aren't Dread Knights. And he's like, yep. And I said, so you remember what I told you about if you get in, like, if you stick anything into my, like, my guys, they're just gonna die? And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. I think things are making sense now. Like, they're just power armor Space Marines, man.
Right.
Like, defensively.
With mind bullets.
With mind bullets, yeah. So that was my round 5. Yeah, it was, again, it was just like, it's like, man, like, orcs would be a real fun match. Like, could I get, like, a long edge deployment? Like, or a short edge? Like, could I get something? Because it's not like I'm running Dreadnoughts and Dread Knights and, like, Razorbacks that would actually, he went into my Rhino and think he just immediately killed it.
Yeah, typically that is how that goes. Except, the game where I got move blocked by a Rhino for 3 turns.
Yeah, actually, explain to me.
I don't know
like,
how that happened. I was rolling shit.
Does Chaos make them like T8 or something? Like, how did they?
I just couldn't get through it.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
I'd get it down to like 1 or 2 wounds, and then it just happened. I got Drygen down to 1 wound in my my game against Custodes.
Yeah, but Trajan is. I wish Drago was half as good as Trajan is. Well, I think Drago is half as good as Trajan is.
Yeah, maybe about half as good.
Yeah, maybe about half as good. So you can see. So remember, Tide of Conviction is a hold 2, hold 3, hold more, not a hold 1, hold 2. So my primary score was shit. If you notice, I have 6 out of 45 and 6 for overrun. That's because I legitimately held no objectives on my turn. I would run up, I would knock some orcs off of theirs, or I would shoot them off of theirs, and then he would move up and countercharge and hold it on my turn. So he did a really good job of keeping me off of all primary. The only primary I scored was from the mission secondary, or whatever we're calling it now.
Tertiary?
The mission tertiary, whatever. That's the only primary I scored. 6 points from that, never from holding anything, because he just was everywhere all the time, murdering everything. I should actually mention
Oscar-winning movie, isn't that?
I don't know.
Everywhere all the time, murdering everything.
Sure, if it's
Michelle
orcs
Yeoh in it or whatever.
I don't know. I heard that one something because my wife mentioned it this morning. I'm like, I have never heard of that movie, and I didn't know the Oscars happened.
Me neither.
Like,
until today.
Don't care. Like, yeah. I'll watch it eventually, I'm sure, but like, I'm not gonna watch it because it won an Oscar, if that makes sense. I should back up. I should mention. So, my Mortal Wounds Libby, a Dread Knight, granted it was on like 2 wounds at the time, and an entire squad of Interceptors goes into a kill rig, gets it down to only 1 wound. This is between Mortal Wounds, shooting, and melee. I rolled real bad on my melee, and he rolled real good on all his saves, and he was actually like, I can't believe it lived. I can't believe it lived. And I'm like, well, it has to be super bracketed. Like, what could it possibly do? This is what it did. It killed a Dread Knight and 5 Interceptors on 1 wound in melee. Not psychic, not anything. It had like D3 attacks. It got all 3. It's hitting. It's like strength 10 or something. It hits on 3s, wounds on 2s. It killed everything. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, I can't even.
This actually kind of seems like
This is not the first time you've left a kill rig at 1 wound.
Oh no. Yeah, I leave a lot of things around at 1 wound. Good night, Sindri. Thanks for swinging by, man.
Hi, man.
Yeah, so as you can see, this was actually the worst trouncing I had the whole game. Or the whole event. I got 90, or he got 94, I got 41. I max scored teleport assault. I got purifying ritual off only twice, turns 1 and 2, I think. And after that, I was pressed so hard, I didn't have anything. I had to use my cast on other things. I couldn't just score it. So I just gave that up. I knew I wasn't ever going to score that. I managed to keep a bunch of his army engaging 1 interceptor that was left from 1 squad and 2 strike squads that were scoring me behind enemy lines. That's the only reason I got anything for that. It was, you know, he kept a Death Dread, and 2 of the speed buggies.
Yeah, he had a squig hog, or he had the non-line of sight squig buggies.
No, that's not what I'm.
Oh no, the
shock jump dragstas. He had 2 of those, and he left them in his deployment zone the whole time, just going after my strike squads and stuff, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
behind enemy,
what he was going to do with that Death Dread.
Well, he said after the game that usually those things come out of reserve and then kill something that's really worthwhile, but he knew he had to kill that strike squad really bad, so he sent a shock dragster and a Death Dread after it, and because I was on his deployment edge, he could like pop them out 1.1 inch away, and I'm like, dude, that's overkill. I'm telling you, if any of your units touch them, they will die. And he's like, well, I have to make sure. And he comes in with
only
this.
Gets 7 attacks with exploding 6s.
7 exploding 6s hitting on 3s with like strength 14 or something. So I'm like,
I mean,
and AP 3. So I'm only like saving on 6s.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm telling you, it's over.
On my end, for the same amount of points, though, like I can put out 3 cans with Scorches. And those are, you know, that's 15 wounds right there, 15 attacks, and they got flamers.
Yeah.
So
my lessons learned is I did do a couple of things really, really well. So he brought a weird boy, which is why he didn't take Abhor the Witch. And he actually said he wished he didn't take the weird boy because it wasn't doing well for him that tournament, and he would love to have taken Abhor the Witch against me.
Mine wasn't doing well the tournament either.
Yeah, and if you look at the scores, it didn't matter. Like he could have taken whatever, and he was gonna score almost 15 on it. So, but they did. Yeah, he was a great player, a fun guy. We got this weird interaction where we had to call over a TO because he dropped down with some Death Dreads, moved them up. He wanted to charge my Tech Marine, which was not near a wall. My Tech Marine was in an L shape on the bottom, like 2 inches away, basically right in the middle of the triangle. And he's like, well, I can just like charge them, right? I have fly, like I can go behind, and it's like an 11.
Cop does?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, you can't fly when you charge. Like you have to draw a straight line, and then there's this in the way, so you have to actually go up and then around. And he's like, no, I don't think that's right. And I was like, I don't know, you might be right, let's call over a TO. And they're like, no, you have to like go up and over and around, and it ended up being like a 16-inch charge or something. And then
he could have gotten around that.
And then Tanner is like, well, why don't you just go around the building? And then it's only a 13. And I'm like, thanks, Tanner.
and you're still eligible to charge because you're within 12 inches.
Right. So it's like 9-inch straight, but he has to go like 13 around. And so he's like, all right, I'll pay for ramming speed. And he rolled like a 4, and then he re-rolled it into a 7 or something. But theoretically, he could have made that. He could have
I've
made
done
that
that so
charge.
many times.
It's pretty funny. I was like, holy shit, like orcs can even do this? Like this is a thing they even it was funny. But making his weird boy worse is the fact that I'm Grey Knights and nobody gets to cast if I don't want them to. Basically. So I asked him what his powers were, and I shut down everything all the time, basically. If he got a cast off, I shut it off. So that was something I did that went well. As I said earlier, we are basically uniquely designed to kill Gaz. Once I saw Gaz, I shot him. I did 8 wounds. And no, I did 4 wounds in the psychic phase, then I did 4 wounds in the shooting phase, and then I charged him and did 4 in the melee phase, and he just dropped. Hey, what's up, Garrett? Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, Garrett.
We're not quite done yet. I think we're gonna bullshit for a bit. There was one situation where I had charged with like 3 different units. I knew he had 2 CP, he charged me. That's right, with like a whole bunch. And I knew I had 2 CP to interrupt, and I decided to interrupt with my full wounds Dread Knight or my top bracket Dread Knight into his Beast Boss. And I just forgot what the math on that thing is so fucking bad. Like,
it's pretty ridiculous.
I'm like, I have 5 attacks hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s from the Grandmaster. You know, I'm strength 10 or 12 if I do Mighty. I'm strength 12 if I do Mighty Strike. So I'm wounding on 2s on 2s -1 because they're T7,
Tough
right?
7.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wound on 4s. That's okay. I can use the strat to like re-roll 1s. And I got through like, I think 4 damage, and then he has a 5 feel no pain, and he ended up like taking 2 or 1. And I'm like, well, that was a waste of a 2 CP. It was so bad. And then he then he swung back and killed a unit I would have really liked to live. Where right behind that Dread Knight that went into the Squig Boss was my Grandmaster, who would have just mulched the Squig Boss probably on the next turn, just with that amount of attacks and damage. Like, if you have a 5 feel no pain, that's great, but when I hit you 6 times and wound you 6 times with D3 plus 3 damage and a bunch of mortal wounds,
there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah,
like, I'm gonna kill you. So that was a really bad call. It wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game, but it would have made the game a little tighter. So there you go. That's my round 5.
All right. Well, we can go into round 6.
Oh, you want? So you want me to go back?
Well, I already did my round 5.
Oh, I got you. So you're okay. I see. Never mind. I'm sorry. I thought you meant you wanted me to do my round 6.
Well, I mean, if you want, we can close off. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about this game other than Lucas Troller is the best fucking orc player in the world. Oh my god. He was move blocking, his control of the movement. He was in the deployment zone of Alex Pina. Turn 2, no problem, and was just holding him back. That game, the entire game, the orcs were in charge. I mean, he went in with a triple kill rig list. And I mean, yeah, the kill rigs were popping, and ultimately they all popped, and every time they popped, out comes a surprise, which is boys.
OBSEC boys holding that objective they were sitting on. Yep. Oh, you thought you were gonna control this when you're done? Nope.
No, actually, I wasn't controlling it until you killed my kill rig. Thank you.
Yeah.
No. It was insane, but to Alex's, just once again to his skill and his list building and his playing, he still got 70 points against that. I mean, the reason, like I said earlier,
sisters assassinate is a trap.
Mhm.
And the points that Lucas didn't score, I believe, were points from assassination. Lucas did win. I think it was 94-70.
He absolutely won. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Lucas. So Lucas got 94, and yeah, Alex got 70. That's that's amazing.
I mean, I wish I watched it. I would go over and just say what was going on and just watch. But I tell you what, by the end of the night, there, I mean, we're talking, day 2, game 6, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, so down. And then I'm also trying to take down my equipment so I can actually get it out there.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
I really wish I did a better job of like taking photos and
My first
putting them
game
on
has photos.
Instagram, and like I wanted to walk around for a moment and like take a video of just how big the hall was. I mean, we had 55 tables,
Yeah, it was insane.
110 players. That's, I mean, other than LVO, which is, it's, you know, the fucking Super Bowl. There's nothing, I've never been to an event bigger. And like LVO has this air of like everybody's too busy, which is probably true. Like everybody, like the venue is huge. Walking to one end to the other at a brisk pace as a like decently in shape man takes you like 4 goddamn minutes, right? Like it's huge. So this was much more intimate in that way, but still really big. Like
Yeah.
tons of people. And unlike LVO, we had enough room where we weren't like nuts to butts.
Oh yeah, no,
like we had
space.
room between all the tables. We
Yeah.
had 2 chairs at every table.
Yeah.
Which I'm telling you, on game 5 and 6, I was really appreciating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought my own chair. I was the only one. I had
Garrett.
the big Pippin chair. But Garrett, yeah, next
Garrett,
time.
Bro, both. I have a guest room, man. You could have crashed here, man. Yeah.
You can
Either
crash
of our
my
houses.
place up, too.
I'm going to let you fill about 45 seconds of time because Ivar's barking.
All right. What are we filling it with here? No. I can understand. I would rather be at RoseHammer than camping in this weather. Especially up there. I'm sure it was worse. Anyways, it was amazing. The work that Colton put in and how well everything ran. For something that, I mean, it's the first time Colton's ever put on a GT. He did a great job. I mean, there's always things you can do better, table numbering, but I mean, it was all minor. Just about everybody had a great time. At the coast. Oh, yeah, see.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I was busy looking for my car.
Yeah, I will talk about that because that was really nice of Warwick. What, buddy? I don't want to throw your toy. Man, this dog is just like,
oh yeah,
he's amped all of a sudden.
Mine's just licking a junk.
Yeah, so Lucas Troller was at the guy that actually won this thing. He is one of the nicest guys.
Super nice. Yep.
And I keep saying this, but it's true. I know a lot of people are afraid to get into competitive Warhammer to go to a tournament. They think they're gonna run into like all of these tryhards who are complete assholes who are gonna like, you know, ask them to like show them every rule and you can't do that, you can't move that far, all that stuff, right? That has not been my experience with any of these things I've ever been to, including LVO. Yeah.
I think we should, you know, I think that's the biggest point out of all of this to push is that it's not out of the way to go to a tournament. It doesn't have to be a stressful experience. I mean, I have a buddy, like,
I was telling him, okay, I was practicing against him for the tournament, and he's like, "This is just too much for me, too much stress." I'm like, "Dude, you can't go into it like that."
Mm.
But there's a very, maybe it was before my time that the Warhammer tournament scene was just full of assholes, because since I joined, started playing Warhammer with you 2 years ago, I have met so many great people.
Right?
I
Yeah.
and very few assholes. I would say maybe two out
Other
of the
than
entire
me.
time. Well, I mean, assholes that I don't like to be around.
Yeah. The largest festering asshole is still me,
No.
right?
The only weird people I've actually dealt with has just been like those random pickup games at a game store that you don't know anybody at, and then you get unlucky. But I've also had good luck with that
Yeah,
too
but
at times.
some of that, like, so first of all, I have to mention Garrett's comment in here that a raccoon stole his Swedish fish. You don't mean lutefisk, do you?
Oh God, I hope not.
By Swedish fish, I assume he means the little gummies.
Yeah.
But I just have to ask, because raccoons would steal either. But I'm still not sure why humans eat lutefisk.
Yeah, I understand why dogs roll in it.
Sure, it stinks. It's not strumming or whatever, but woo.
He got 100 pounds of Swedish
100
fish.
All Wow, that is.
No, I don't think he actually got 100
wild.
pounds.
Yeah.
But he could if he wanted to.
Oh, in like 100 pounds. Okay. All right. Now that mystery is solved. Yeah, I've noticed when I get paired into like somebody who 10 years ago I'd be like, what is this guy's problem? I realize like he's a nerd. He's probably at some level, he's probably on the spectrum. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that to be mean or rude or anything. I'm just like, I'm neurodivergent. I have ADD. Like I fucking admit that. Like,
well, honestly,
like
we're a bunch of people that spend a bunch of time painting or doing stuff like this, and our ages, and we're still doing. Yeah. It kind of attracts our kind of people,
right?
Which happen to be neurodivergent.
Right. So like sometimes you just run like I don't know. It's just me getting older and understanding this more. Where it's like that stuff doesn't bother me anymore. Where like
no.
If they didn't say hello back or please and thank you all the time 10 years ago, I would have been really upset. But now I'm just like, whatever. Like,
okay, so Apollo.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Go ahead. Ask the question.
This is a Death Watch question, so this is
but
you, buddy.
But you ask it and I answer.
Okay, let me say. So Apollo says I've just actually this works out good because I can ask the question, you can answer it. Look
That's
at
what
us
I'm
co-hosting.
saying. We're co-hosting, yeah.
That's right. I've just started a Death Watch army, which will be my 4th 40K army in under 2 years of returning to the hobby. Jesus Christ, man. 4th in under 2 years. Good on you. Good on your income.
Oh, you got the patrol box? All right, hold on.
Yeah, he has Kill Team Cassius and the patrol box. What should he get next?
I need to look up what exactly was in. I know the apothecary was in there. I know there were some interceptors. Okay. It's also aggressors. Good choice. They're fantastic. And then there's a lieutenant. Of course, there's a lieutenant in the Space Marine box. So. My answer to that is going to be you have chosen remarkably well. If you want to choose a Space Marine chapter for hobbying, Death Watch is it because you have now opened up every single Space Marine box is now a Death Watch box. I remember I was cranking out a bunch of models to go on One Last Blade's channel. I really needed some more Terminators. I popped down to my closest local gaming store. The only Terminators there were Space Wolves ones. I bought them. Because these are now Death Watch Space Wolves. Like, it's going to add flavor to my army. It's going to look cool. I'm going to paint them up. Like, this will be great. Awesome. They have fur. They have, like, the big fur cloaks. They have, like, tassels of, like, wolf pelts and things. It's fantastic. So my answer to that is, what are you trying to do? If you want to play really competitively, Right now, unfortunately, Deathwatch is really, really bad.
Yeah, I was going to suggest he purchase a time machine next, either to go back to the Army of Renown or into the future when they're good again.
But my actual answer is Terminators will probably always be good. But what's really cool is like you can go buy a Dark Angels command squad or like some Deathwing Knights or whatever. You can put those in your Deathwatch army. You just need the pauldron and you paint them black with the silver arm, and then you paint all the like Dark Angel stuff green or gold or whatever. You can go buy Space Wolves, Terminators. You like the world's your oyster. Like, what do you want to build? Really, is the question. You can buy anything except attack bikes and Devastator squads and Scout squads. Everything else, Deathwatch has access to. So.
Paulo mentions that they have announced they are looking into improving them for the next data set.
Yeah, no, I know that. I was being a little flippant, so like pardon me. I really love my Deathwatch. When I saw the original balanced data slate, I was so excited to play them more. And then we just saw that it kind of fell on its face because we're now in the meta of put all the Melta in the game that you possibly can. And we just can't do that because we don't have access to a lot of those units that bring a lot of good Melta. There's other things too that I'm not going to really get into, but so my response to you is, what do you want to do? If you want competitive, I'd buy some Terminator boxes. Deathwatch veterans are always good, especially if you magnetize them. Man, they have so many loadouts. They're fantastic. You should definitely buy them. Deathwatch veterans are even fun to build. It's cool that they're the Mark 9 armor, which I know technically doesn't exist, but prove to me that they're not Mark 9 because they look like they're right between Mark 8 and Mark 10. I love the Dread Knight or the Dreadnought boxes, and then you can go to like Pop Goes the Monkey if you don't have a resin printer, and you can buy like a Space Wolves style add-on kit, or they have all the like various crazy chapters. So the answer is, what do you want to build, my man? What do you want to do? Do you want to paint cool models? Do you want to get into competitive? You want to play narrative? Because like Deathwatch, all of those are completely viable and they're all cool and they all have like very different answers. $100 worth of halberds for wait, for what army? Ah, okay. So yeah, so you're kind of like me. Like you like the hobby aspect, but you want the competitive stuff. I would buy Deathwatch veterans. Our firstborn are amazing. I would buy a couple boxes of Vanguard vets. I'd buy a box of the normal bikes, because then you can make some really sweet Proteus kill teams, and those are kind of our best kill team right now. Barring that, though, if you want to go Primaris, I would buy more heavy intercessors, and I would buy a couple, like maybe one box of Inceptors, and then I'd buy more aggressors, because you can make some really cool Indomitor kill teams as well. Yeah, that's... I know I said all of that really fast, but this is a VOD, so you can go back and listen to my answer. I love the Proteus melee kill teams, so that's what I would say you should buy. But if you love the Indomitor, like really shooty teams, then yeah, heavy intercessors, aggressors, and inceptors. But yeah, that is a lot of halberds, my man. Are you like
$100 of printed halberds? At first he said actual halberds. I'm
yeah,
like, dude,
okay, all
like
right. So he's getting
that's like a quarter of a halberd, right?
No, he's getting into the historical halberd, which is like an axe on one side and like a pickaxe on the other side. I mean, it depends on which like century you're also speaking of. When we say halberds in the, you know, the like 40k land, we mean the like Grey Knight style, yeah, where it's a knife on the end of a spear, basically. But yeah. Oh, and buy your Watchmaster. Your Watchmaster is amazing. Buy your Watchmaster. Cool kit. Awesome data sheet. All right. So I'm gonna jump into my round 6 now for the tournament. This was my favorite game. This was lore-tastic. This was a great opponent. We were both feeling the fatigue of playing 9 hours of Warhammer 2 days in a row. But we were both really excited to be playing. We both really loved our armies. I wish I'd taken more photos of his. So he played World Eaters. I play Grey Knights. So already my lore like itch is being scratched. He had a really fluffy list though. He wasn't running like a shitload of berserkers or whatever. He had 1 unit of berserkers. He had like 3 units of 3-man exalted 8-born or 8-bound. I don't remember. I think it's 8-bound.
Yeah.
8-bound, yeah. He had 1 unit of something. I'm still not sure what they are, but they all had like tentacle arms. They were some other thing. He had one of the dudes riding a like some kind of beast-looking rhinoceros-looking thing.
Yeah, that's our warlord, I think.
Yeah, it had an aura.
Shit.
It had an aura of plus. So the exalted moved like 9 inches, and this guy gave him like plus 2-inch movement.
Yeah.
So these foot infantry are moving 11. Chaos spawn. Yeah, I think that was it. And then he had a 610-point Mega Knight. He had one of the big ass Chaos Knights, the corn ones. It had a like volcano, not a volcano cannon. It had like a volcano destructor or whatever.
It's like a multi-melt up, but for volcano cannon.
But way bigger. It was like D3 shot, strength 14, hitting on 2s into vehicles, wounding on 2s into basically everything in the game. Negative 6 AP, and it was 8 plus D6 damage.
Yeah.
8 plus D6. Yeah.
The doggo cam going on.
And that was just one gun. He had 2 missiles on top. He can only fire 1 per round, and he only gets 2 per battle. But they ignored invuls, and they had like -4 on their AP or something. -3 or -4. Anyway, it had, and then it had other guns. It had plasma and some assault cannons or something. It had tons of shooting. So I'm like, all right, if this thing looks at like, this thing could easily delete 2 Dread Knights a turn.
Yeah.
No problem. So he's also melee. He has no other guns in his whole list. His knight had all of his guns. I'm not even kidding. I think his berserkers had pistols or something, but he never shot them. Yeah, the polyfirin, I don't remember. I can look it up. It was really cool. His gold, whatever paint he used for his gold, was ridiculous.
Yeah,
it was
had like
good.
Just a bright gold. It was almost like he went over it with a gold leaf pen.
Yeah, it was crazy. His gold was like just insane. But then this motherfucker brings out Angron, and I'm like, oh, baby. This is on. I'm like, he has the new model. He has it painted up. It looks real nice. And I'm like, Grey Knights vs. Angron. Let's go.
Classic.
Yeah. So, I'll say it again. World Eaters fuck. He had like, I think he had like less than 20 models total. I'm not even kidding. He had almost no chaff. He had these exalted 8-bound, which are like a 3-man's like 140 points. He had this giant knight, which was 610 or 620 points. He had very few models. And so I'm like, okay, I could probably get board control real easy.
No, they move too much.
Now,
hit hard.
Yeah, now the good news is this was into secure missing artifacts, and unfortunately this is the worst designed mission in the pack. And the reason is you can sit on 2 objectives the entire game and get 45 on primary. It is a 5 objective mission, but because of the bonus one, which is just you get 3 points if you hold one, like this one objective, you just score 3 points. So you score 8 on primary, 3 for your second, or 3 for your mission tertiary or whatever. If you score that for 5 turns, you've maxed your primary. You don't even have to. You barely have to leave your deployment zone. It is honestly the worst mission in the pack. So but knowing this, I'm like, okay, I don't have to engage him. I'm gonna set up my terrain to protect me from his knight, and I'm just gonna sit here, score my primary. I'm gonna get some behind enemy line points because he doesn't have very many models, so I can drop stuff down from deep strike, score my command points, score that. You know, I'll maybe get like 85, 90, no problem. I don't even have to go engage him. And so I thought I'd just sit here, let him feed me melee units. The problem is he comes at you to a huge wave. His exalted 8-bound have a 3-up, 4-up. They are 4 wounds apiece, not 3. So they're like super terminators. They don't have guns, but they have like strength 7, a shitload of attacks. It's absurd how many attacks that they have. All very high AP and at least 2 damage. 2 to 3 damage, I think, all the way through. So it was just like, I was learning so much. And to top it all off, their blood tithe rule, which I think is really, really cool, by the way.
I love it.
Like Grey Knight tides, like I said, it doesn't matter. For 6 games in a row, I went into tide with convergence and never changed, and it didn't matter. I never once thought, oh my god, I wish I was in tide of something else. No, I was in the best tide the whole time. There were no decisions. When you have these blood tithe points, you have to make decisions, and you get to pick like the buffs that you get against your opponent, and you get to bring back Angron, and you get to score yourself additional victory points. Like, it's so interactive. It's really interesting. And that feels great. What is hilarious, though, and I'll mention this again, I mentioned it earlier, is their secondaries are gnarly. So they have one where if anything dies on an objective, they get 1 point. That's your models or theirs. If it dies on an objective, that's a point. If a unit. If 2 units, one of yours, one of theirs, so if you like charge in, fight theirs, kill theirs, they spend 2 CP, fight back, kill yours, which is probably going to happen. That's 2. You just gave them 2 victory points. And then you also gave them 2 blood tithe points that they can use to buff their whole army. If they get 6, they can bring back Angron. And then they have another secondary where they can just spend blood tithe points to give themselves VP. So, like, if you go through 5 rounds against World Eaters, you're going to give them 45 points in secondary. Full stop.
Easy. Yeah, 100%.
Full stop. So the real question is, can you keep them off of primary? The good news
Can you
is,
score your secondaries.
yeah, and that, right? It's like, so I didn't realize it until you see it, right? Like, holy moly, they are good. And when they come at you moving 11, and then they can get +1 to charge from blood tithe.
Yeah, automatic wounding on 6s to hit with the blood tithe.
Yeah, they get
11-inch and 11-inch pregame movement that you cannot screen out.
Thankfully, they didn't have that in this match, but also the player I was playing against had a really fluffy list. So this is the first game in my Warhammer career that I've ever tabled an opponent and still lost. In fact, this is the first time I've been able to table an opponent. But I still lost. So, turn one, I go first, which sucked. I did not want to go first. I put a unit of interceptors out on the middle objective. I purified with them. My goal, my whole thing was I'm not going to hold the middle. I don't want to give them a charge, so I'm going to gate them back. I cast gate, it fails. I reroll it, it fails.
Again?
Yep. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Can't reroll it again. So I just left an interceptor squad out there like, fuck, that's already not a great start. I then, because I was using gate for that, I spent 2 CP to shunt over a Dread Knight because I took teleport assault. And remember, this is game 6. Like, I'm tired. Like,
Yeah.
Tim is a great guy, but like, I'm fucking tired, man. I gate over. I spend 2 CP for shunt. It's like it's the second time I use it in the whole tournament because it's 2 CP. It's too expensive. And I'm like, okay, there's only 3 models on that objective. I can kill them. No.
Hell yeah.
No, I can't. I didn't even ask what their defensive profile was. I was like, I don't know. It's probably berserkers. Like, what's that? Marines. It's fine. I can kill 3 Marines. No, they weren't. They were chaos spawn. They just sucked up all of the Dread Knight shooting, even with +1 to hit, and reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound. They did not care. I killed like 1.5 models, and it cost me 3 CP to do that, and it sucked. So I'm already like not feeling great about turn 1. He moves Angron up, charges my interceptors. I just pull them. Like, he goes to grab these 40 dice, and I'm like, man, I know you get like 36 attacks. I'm just gonna pull these. He's like, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm like, yes. And then I had to tell him what I told the orc player, where I'm like, if any of your units touch any of mine that aren't a Dread Knight, they're just gonna die. So I just pull that like 5-man. He then moves his 3 inches on his giant base towards my Grandmaster Dread Knight. My turn 2, I obliterate Angron. I'm like, nope, die, just get out of here.
But they can bring him back, so you know it's fine.
And he did later, which was great. And I'll actually, the rest of the game is me just frantically trying to drop down in his backfield, score points, move around. My mortal wounds, Libby, every time he goes off, he kills a whole unit of his. Like, exalted, 8-bound, gone. His first 2 blood points, or 3, went right to his army-wide 3-up, feel no pain to mortal wounds, because he's like, holy shit, that librarian does not mess around. And I'm like, nope.
Well, they
and
can spend that, and that blood tithe.
It's at the end of a phase.
For the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's for the rest of the game. Yeah, 8-bound. Yeah, 8-bound. I keep I don't know, whatever. First time I've ever seen him. So I was probably messing up what I was actually calling him then too. But anyway, my mortal wounds, Libby looks at any single unit that isn't the knight and just obliterates them. So he gets the 5 feel no pain, so now it's becoming harder. I have to spend more CP to actually kill these units. I charge into anything. Like, I have to only feed 1 unit in, because for 2 CP he can fight on death, and for 2 more he can interrupt. And then he started with 5 CP, by the way, because I think Angron gives 2. So he was floating
for taking them. Nice.
Yeah. It's like it's like bringing like Gilliman gives 2 or 3 or something.
Yeah, I think Gilliman gives 2.
I think Abaddon gives some. I don't remember. Like, don't quote me on any of this. I don't play those armies. I know they exist. The Silent King does it. So like, he's floating 5 CP at the start of the game. I have 2. Like, this is before the first turn. He just comes into the game with 5. Yeah, and they can't spend them on anything, but they already have such cool shit to spend them on. Like, oh, in list building. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that means like, okay, so if I charge 3 units in on a charge, right? I get to fight with 2 of them. Let's say I kill 2 units. He's going to interrupt, kill the 3rd unit for free, effectively, for 2 CP, which he has floating anyway, like he doesn't care. Where unlike like my armies, both of mine, I have to really be judicious with my CP usage because I don't get that many. Even when I play for Prescient Brethren to farm extra, I always feel like I'm being choked, right? But he's like, yeah, that's fine. And then he'll just spend 2 more to fight on death. So of the 3 units of mine that charge, I get to kill 2 of his. He kills 2 of mine. And then he gets 4 total blood points. Or blood tithe points, right? Or yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's just like, wow, that is really good for you. Like so I learned really quickly, like I can only feed out really 1 unit. I have to be hiding units constantly. So my Grey Knights were like ducking around corners. I was like measuring, pre-measuring, measuring again, like letting him know what my intent was, all that stuff. And then he has this knight stomping around that if he looks at anything, it evaporates. Just, there's nothing you can do against that knight, right? But this was like, I know that paints a really bleak picture, but I want to make sure that everybody knows, like I was having a great time. This was my favorite match of the whole
Awesome.
of the whole thing.
So both our favorite matches were against World Eater games.
I guess, yeah, but it was because like for
Totally
me
different ones.
Yeah. And for me it was so thematic and interesting. And it was really cool to see a new army, and you realize like I'm gonna go on another small tangent here, but the rumors are the entire AOS rules team has been moved off onto 40k 10th. So we're gonna see a lot more AOSing of 40k, and I don't personally see that as a bad thing overall, as long as they don't go too far. But like when you look at the World Eaters book, that's kind of like an AOS book. Just gonna scream at some dogs now. Like they get a cool army-wide rule, they get some interesting secondaries that like play off of that. A lot of their stuff is baked into their data sheets. They don't have to know 40,000 different crazy ass stratagems that are really edgy. Like when I say we don't have defensive stratagems as Grey Knights, like yes, I know if I come out of Deep Strike, I can spend 1 CP for Haloed in Soulfire to make them 1 harder to hit. Like, don't care. That's one time. Like, it's not nothing, but it's not good. So I don't count it.
There's lists that it would go good into, like, you know, an orc shooting list or an orc shooting list.
Make orcs hit on 6s instead of 5s. But you see what I mean, right? Like you look at the World Eaters book and you're like, okay, this feels AOS-y, but still it's definitely 40k. Like it's 100% 40k.
Care about that as well.
Yeah, and but they
pair just like very concise.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's great. I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, these like, you know, the AdMech book was probably the most egregious. That and the Drakari one were probably the most egregious, crazy 9th edition bloat we've seen, where it's like, this guy's gonna give this units reroll all hits, but he's gonna give this unit like reroll all wounds, and he's gonna give this unit +1 to hit, and then I have this like relic, so I can't be targeted if you're outside of 12 inches of me, you know. And then and that's only one of my characters. Like, let me get into my other character, right? Like, you just have all these crazy rules interactions. Like, why?
Useless stratagems.
They're so weird.
That just sit there, like stratagems that are focused on one type of unit that you may or may not take. I mean, the Orc book. So many stratagems I will never, ever even touch.
Yeah. Same with Grey Knights. Like, it's interesting that Thunderous Stride exists. It came in handy that one time against you when I killed Gaz on the charge. Would that have changed the outcome of the game? Probably not. I would have charged and killed you in the melee phase. Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, why does it exist? It's interesting. Or Evil Sons at all. Yeah.
They were all right for a little bit.
Yeah. That's a whole different, like, the sub factions is a different thing. But I was actually really excited for my opponent because he got to play a really lore, fun, interesting list that he was enjoying. Even though he was also he was 2-3 at the time that we went into our game, just like me. He was having a great time, and I thought that was fantastic. But, you know, it just, I can see the difference between like our books and the overall meta as a whole. And if more of the books go the way the World Eaters book went, that's probably okay. Why the fuck do Evil Sons exist now that the Speed Mob is gone?
Well, they weren't really
Zack.
there before.
Yeah.
I mean, they exist because they've existed for a long time, and they're not going to get rid of stuff, which is also part of the orc bloat. They don't get rid of things very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I wanted that orc bike list so bad to work, and I just never was able to make it work.
Yeah.
Right. There's no assault weapons in the orc codex.
Yeah, they're all
Yes, I
DACA
know.
now. Yeah.
It went all DACA. I mean, it's a big problem with Speed Wall as well. Speed Wall gives you -1 AP for all your vehicles, heavy but it also lets you advance and shoot assault weapons without a penalty. But all your weapons are DACA weapons, so what the hell?
There is some other weird rules bloat though, and it might just go back to how kind of old in 10th the Grey Knight's book is now, but like he got on my home objective with 3 exalted 8 bound. He charged into a strike squad. I just pulled them because I'd already been slapped by them in another like fight phase, and I knew that the strike squad wasn't going to live through it. He then consolidated into my tech marine. On my next turn, I fell back my tech marine. He tried to do the like on a 4-up you can't fall back thingy. He failed that. So my tech marine ran away. My Grandmaster had been shot at by the Titan or the Knight earlier, and I jumped him back there. So my Grandmaster Dread Knight was only like 3 inches away from these guys by the time he was through fighting. I shoot, I kill 2 of them. No, I shoot, I kill 1 of them. I charge, I kill 1 of them because I rolled horribly, or he rolled really well. Rick. I don't remember. He swings back with 1 exalted 8th bound, which wasn't even the sergeant. And when he told me what was gonna come at me, I was like, I'm popping my 3-up invul. Because, like, you have a really good shot of actually killing my Grandmaster, who is at, like, 11 wounds at the time. He's almost at full health. And I'm like, this is a 45-ish point model that is now going to schwack my 2CP 255 point character. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm excited for him because he's having so much fun, but analytically, I'm not okay with this, right? Like, this is... If like, you know, your beast boss comes in and kills 4 of my strike squads and I get to swing back with the sergeant, I have 4 attacks hitting on 3s, right? Strength 5, so I'm already wounding on 5s. You're -1 to be wounded, so I'm wounding you on 6s. Maybe I have reroll all wounds. I'm gonna wound you, let's say, twice. You have a 5-up invul. You're gonna make 1, maybe, right? I'm gonna do 2 damage, you're -1 damage, maybe I do 1 mortal wound. I'm gonna do 2 wounds. Right? Like, it's just, I'm looking at this just like, wow, you know, like, this is gnarly. If I don't make these 3-ups, he's dead. Luckily, I spiked and made, like, every single 3-up, but if I hadn't done the 3-ups, I would have lost the model. Because they're like flat 3 damage, they're strength 7, so they're wounding me on 3s, and like -3 AP, so I'm at my invul anyway. It's
I mean, at least you got the -1 damage because you're. Oh wait, no, never mind. Sorry.
Well, yeah, a lot of the time I'd rather have the invul than the -1 damage, but still, it's I think he did spend 1 for +1 damage. I think he did all the math and he was actually thinking about that. But yeah, I was very surprised. Like, holy shit, that is real good for a 45-point model. Granted, buffed with blood tides and all that stuff.
Yeah.
By then, and you know, I know he doesn't shoot; he only charges and fights. But still, it's like I'm about to lose 6 times the amount of points.
I mean, the amount of times I've lost a 650-point stomp to a fucking unit of eradicators. I don't want to listen to it.
You brought a Stompa, dude. You brought a Titanic, and you make yours out of like old Dalek models and stuff. So I don't want to, or Dalek, whatever.
Dalek, but I got a normal one too.
Also, as a psychic army, I know I'm just in bitch mode like right now. I want to mention I had a fucking great game. Okay. The analytical side of me, though, sees this. He has a 4-up, 1 CP, just auto deny strat. It doesn't matter what I rolled. Auto denies it. Just straight up. So if I could roll a 30 on a psychic test, he just has a 50-50 chance of being like, no, you don't get to do that. I think he used that every single turn, except maybe turn 1, because I was just not doing anything aggressive on turn 1, and he failed it every single time. But every time he said he's gonna do that, like my heart leapt into my throat, because like
scrunch up a little bit.
Yeah, it's like he's not denying it, like not with a psyker. He's not denying it normally. He just gets a 50% chance to just straight up deny it.
Custodies have that too.
Dalek. All right, whatever. I've watched like
Dalek.
I've watched 2 episodes, I think, of.
Oh man.
All
right, I'm out of here. It's late. You don't watch Doctor Who.
I couldn't. It was too campy.
Oh.
I like dark and nasty. That's why I like 40K. That's why you like orcs. Yeah. Anyway. So the creme de la creme though of this game, there were 2 points. It was when he said he's bringing back Angron, and I'm like, I knew he was gonna do this. And at some point, like he had enough of these horrible units. Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe maybe they punish. It's not that I hate Doctor Who. It's not for me. But that's still a funny comment, and probably true. Anyway, so like he came at me so hard onto my side that I just gated or shunted everything on to his side over like multiple turns. So we've basically just changed sides of the board now. I'm over here scoring behind enemy lines with effectively my whole army, and you're over there having to put on the brakes and turn around and come back. And I'm okay with this. He drops Angron near that side of the board, so I shunt over my Grandmaster. I gate over my other Dread Knight, and then my last remaining Dread Knight steps out around a corner. Now all 3 of us have we are surrounding Angron now in like a "you came to the wrong fucking neighborhood" move, right? I have a strike squad all standing there just ready to beat him up. I have the Mortal Wounds Libby there, and I have an interceptor squad. So it's basically my entire army versus Angron. The Mortal Wounds Libby steps out like a fucking Western gunslinger. Does his mortal wound shit. And this is when my opponent goes, oh yeah, by the way, he only has 8 wounds when I bring him back. And I'm like, man, I just moved my entire army over here to kill this guy because he's like 2 up, 4 up, 16 wounds or 18 wounds or like something like that. And I know how screwy that math gets, so I just want overwhelming. And I had already cast Empiric Amplification on him, which is the +1 damage.
Yeah.
So just like 1,000 points of Grey Knights or whatever are like Nope. Going back to the warp, baby. So
Be
we
gone with
did.
you, sir.
So we sent
I saved the
Angron
day.
back again. The strike squad then goes, oh, cool. We're gonna charge this knight thing that's over here. Goes in. These guys rolled so hot. The knight was at full health, 28 wounds. They do like 17 wounds between the ones that get through and mortal wounds from Tide of Conviction. Or, sorry, Tide of Convergence. And my opponent is like, what is happening? And I'm like, I don't know.
Just roll with it, baby.
Yeah, they had hammer hand on him, so like I'm wounding on 5s, but I got to roll everything that missed again, and I just spiked a ton of 6s. And he's like, man, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, I don't care, you're bracketed. He fights, but he's the like shooty knight, so he's got like 4 stomps, and that's it. And I think he stomps on like 2 strike dudes. They then fall back the next turn, and my Grandmaster is like, I got this. And I don't even shoot him. I charge and I just kill him in melee with my Grandmaster. And that's when I tabled his army. And I still lost. Yeah. Because every time you kill anything of his or anything of yours dies, he gets the points. And yeah. And he's spending all the extra blood tithe that he doesn't need to get points.
Yep.
And he's racking up blood tithe like, wow. You know? I mean, I imagine like World Eaters into MSU Drukari. You might as well just start with 40 blood tithe points because, like, you know, you're just gonna die so fast. Oh, that's right. I had to actually gate the Mortal Wounds Libby back to my home objective to Mind Blast off the Chaos Spawn. That's right. Which of course he did. No problem. But yeah, Angron died to a charge from the Grandmaster, and then the Grandmaster charged in and killed the Knight as well. So my Grandmaster got to kill Gaz and Angron twice, and a big old Knight once. So my Grandmaster had a great time. And my Mortal Wounds Libby, I don't even know.
He was just on a bender.
He probably did, I'm not even kidding, close to 5 games. He probably did nearly 100 mortal wounds the whole, like, over 6 games. I'm not even kidding. Because he's doing, awesome, like, at least 10 a turn. He probably did close to, yeah, like, no, well, maybe not. I don't know. I can do the math later. But he did a ton. It is insane.
Nice.
Yeah. So I had a great time. The final scoring was, I got 29 on primary somehow. 9 of that was from precious artifacts. You can see I almost maxed out behind enemy lines. I maxed out teleport assault once I realized what his actual squishy stuff was and could kill it. Or like I would wound stuff down to like 1 wound left, and then I'd like gate over something the next turn and then kill it. Purifying Ritual, again, just he had put so much pressure on me I couldn't cast it, and I needed my cast to do other stuff. I needed Hammer Hand, I needed Empiric Amplification, I needed Gate, I needed all these things. I couldn't really cast Purify, but if I took like banners, I probably would have scored 7, maybe 8 total. So really, there wasn't a better choice. And he scored 87 because if you see, he has nearly maxed out his secondaries. And he the only reason he scored that low on primary is I kept shooting or charging him off of his primary. And he didn't have enough models to come back and take it.
Right.
Because of his really fluffy list. Yeah. If this was Tanner with a really meta list, it probably would have been way, way worse. Or it would have been way, way worse.
It would have been way worse. Yeah.
So yeah, and then at the end of that, to Jed's point here, we wrap up. We do the awards. So there was a whole painting competition. I didn't partake in. I thought about putting my Votan call in the running because he's probably the he's probably the model I'm most proud of right now, just because I spent so much time on him.
Yeah.
I think he looks great. I don't think he looks as good as I could do, but you know, and the painting was amazing. Like,
yeah. I mean, I threw up my Gorkanaut because I really like how he turned out with all the weathering, and my basing on that is mwah! But yeah, I was like, I looked at the other stuff and I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's a good paint job, but it ain't that. And some of the people there, like display that they had for their army.
yeah.
Oh Jesus! I mean, I guess that's what happens when you get a GT. People are like, let's bring over my special stuff.
I love when they make a display board that isn't just a display board, but it's also like a transport case.
Right.
Where it's like it's also super useful. It's not just pretty, it's also like handy, and it's just like, man, these people are so much better at this than I am. They're just so much like more spatially aware and able to build like a decent contraption. I'm like, I buy plastic box, tape metal sheet in bottom, put magnets on bases. Yay! Right? Army safe.
Where me is, I start making something cool, and then it sits on the side undone for about 3 months, and then I'll do another little piece.
Yeah. There's that too. That hobby creep, baby. For sure.
All right, dude, it's 1 o'clock.
It is 1 o'clock, yeah.
I would say before I go, Colton did an amazing job doing his first GT, getting that going, all the work. He just posted like 45 minutes ago that he's finally made it home from like packing everything up and leaving from the RoseHammer GT. He spent weeks and weeks and weeks on this. So good job, Colton.
Holy shit, yeah.
This, thank you very much.
Yeah, I just read
glad
that.
to be a part of it. Glad to help out in the background and glad to play. So,
yeah, man.
I think he's done wonders for the community in the Portland area for sure.
If you do happen to live in the Pacific Northwest, I know Jed knows this. Garrett probably knows this. You know, Ordo hosts an RTT almost every single month. I know they want to host 2 GDs a year as their plan. And if they're big enough, they'll turn into a major like this one did.
Yeah.
So, thanks for swinging by, everybody. Ken, always a pleasure. We had some new names in chat as well, which I super appreciate. It is 1 o'clock though. I gotta be up in like 6 hours, so I'm gonna go to bed.
As do I.
Everybody have a great night. We'll see you again soon for some more content. On Thursday, I'm going to be doing a 4-way interview with myself, Lou Rollins, Jason Snagowski, and Michael Claw. So 3 of the best Deathwatch players on the planet, and my dumbass, all talking about the state of Deathwatch and hopefully what will change to make them more competitive. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz.
Man, we got some people from Europe watching over here.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. Yeah. It'll be 3 p.m. my time, 11 p.m. Central European time, because Michael's in Sweden. I think it's Central European time. Anyway, thank you, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure. Zack, thanks for streaming and hanging out with me here. So.
Oh, you know, I'm always down for that. We have not done this in quite a while, it feels like. It's
That's
just
true.
A chaos.
Life is hell.
Life is hell.
All right, guys. I will talk to you later, and don't forget, call your mother.